Hi everyone, Debra Dickinson here. Thank you for joining me on my channel. Everyone keeps asking me what apps do I use to find these fabulous boondocking sites that I go to. Well, today I am going to share every single app that I use with you, and I'll be sharing screenshots, and leave me questions in the comments below and I will try to answer them. I'm also tomorrow going to tell you about the paper maps I use. Let's get started. Okay, so first of all, I am going to start with my maps folder, and my phone, I will put the screenshot up so that you can see it. But in my maps folder, I have a state line map. I love that information, or that app, because you can toggle it to get all kinds of information. What I have right now is that it comes up as soon as I open it, is by state, and they're alphabetical. It lists the emergency numbers. I have it to where I have the rest area guidelines and the time zone, because that always messes me up when I'm traveling. But you can get local tax information, state information, camping information, all kinds of things on this. It's called state lines, but it doesn't really it's not a map. It doesn't show you the actual state lines. It just gives you all of that wonderful information about each state. And so I love that app. And then, of course, Google Maps, and I'm going to tell you more about that in a minute. I use an iPhone, and so my Apple Maps is on there as well. I don't like it as well as I do Google Maps. Google Maps, I can store pins, I can share locations, I can do multiple directions. It just works better for me. And then, of course, U.S. public lands. I use that one. In fact, Google Maps and U.S. public lands, I have both of those open before I even start my trip. Google Maps has my directions on it, and you have to be sure you don't ever close it, because if you're traveling and you don't have service and you have closed that, you don't get it back. So I make sure that I open up Google Maps and have my destination and my directions loaded and ready to go. And as I'm traveling, I also have U.S. public lands open so that I can see, maybe I'm not going to camp in an area where I'm driving through, but I can quickly toggle over on U.S. public lands and see whether or not that is BLM or National Forest or available camping in that way. And they have all kinds of public lands on there, not just those two. So I have those two up while I'm traveling. And then, of course, when I go to camp somewhere, I always call up U.S. public lands and narrow in on where I am and make sure that I'm not on a white area, because there are sometimes leases, especially gas and oil lease or private ranching, that'll be right in the middle of BLM or National Forest, and you think that you are on public land because you were traveling through public land to get there, but it turns out you're not. So I use those two extensively. I also, you see geocaching on there. I personally don't geocache by myself, but when I'm with friends that do, I have that on there so that I can participate with them. And then just some cool apps for maps that I use. Skyview Lite, which is not as loaded as Skyview. And then Peak Finder is a wonderful app that you can, kind of like Sky Map. It can tell you, Sky Map tells you the constellations. Peak Finder will tell you the elevations and the peaks of mountains that you're looking at. And then Avenza Map. Avenza Maps gives you all kinds of information. And what I like about Avenza Maps is that you can download your maps ahead of time, so that if you're going to be out of service or don't have internet, you already have that map, and you can get MVUM, motor vehicle use maps off of there, which is so handy when you get into an area and are trying to find boondocking information. And so there is just a lot on Avenza Maps that you can do. So that's pretty much it on my maps folder. Y'all ready to talk about the next one? Okay, let's talk about the coverage apps that I use. I use Find Tower. That will let me know if there is a cell tower anywhere within my range. It is not often good at identifying what the tower is for or what carriers use it, but it at least helps you narrow in a little bit. Also, I use the app called Coverage, and you can click your different carriers on it. AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, It keeps up to date with those. And what I find interesting on that is you can tell, like, for example, up around Yellowstone and the Tetons, that there's not much coverage up there at all. So again, it helps you narrow in on maybe where you don't want to camp or which direction you do want to head. And then when you land there, you need to be able to do a speed test. And I use speedtest.net on my laptop, but on my phone I use Open Signal, and it will give you the speed. And so that if you're a digital nomad like me and you make a living, extra income by working online, you need to know what your cell tower strength is going to be, because just because you may have 1, 2, even 3 bars on your carrier service, that doesn't mean that it is good enough to maybe live stream or upload videos or do any kind of digital work. So those are the 3 apps that I use to check my cell phone and internet coverage. Next are my navigation apps. Again, on this one, in this folder, there's just 3 of them, but GPS to SMS, I am not good at taking coordinates and converting them into something that the map can use, like Google Maps or iPhone, Apple Maps or something like that. So this GPS to SMS, it does a good job of taking where you're at and actually converting it into something that the maps can use and that you can share with your family and friends to let them know where you are. That is very important for me. Even though I have a Spot GPS messenger that I use, sometimes I send this to people as well, and especially if I want to share with friends where I am so they can come join me. So that is an important app for me. And then the altimeter, I like to check where I'm camped at all times and see what elevation I'm at. Right now it says that I am at 7230 on my elevation, and it also gives coordinates on there, but again, it's the coordinates that you have to convert before you can use them on a map. So but altimeter is a good app for that. And then of course the compass app that comes with your phone. Now where I use that a lot is to navigate what direction I want to park, because often I will just park for the view. I don't care about the sun, but sometimes I do want to know where the sun is going to rise and set so that I know where to park, which way to park my vehicle. So those are my navigation apps. Everyone has their favorite weather apps. It's a personal preference lots of times. I will share with you the 10, yes, 10 that I use. And they have to be simple for me. And if I have to dig too deep to find a particular feature that I'm wanting, I just use a different app for that instead. Again, the iPhones have the Apple Weather. I don't tend to like that one too much for accuracy, but it's nice and easy, and it provides a great widget on my phone just to quickly see what the weather is in the area that I'm at. So I like the widget that the Apple Weather provides, but the main one that I enjoy using to get my day-to-day weather and to stay on top of it. So because, for example, where I am right now, the roads take 2 to 3 days to dry up after a rain. And so I have to watch the weather diligently because I'm high up and it can change in a heartbeat. And I don't want to get socked in here because I can't get out without getting stuck. So I have to constantly watch and make sure that rain's not in the forecast because I'm getting ready to travel. And I don't want to get stuck here and not be able to travel. I will go somewhere in town or something if I have to. So I rely heavily on the Weather Channel, and it has a feature called Daily, and then at the bottom, Hourly, and then I can also easily switch to Radar, and I can check towns that I'm wanting to travel to so that I can keep track of that. And so I really like that for just my regular daily use in boondocking and being a nomad. I use AccuWeather for notifications. I have it set up to where it will notify me if there is a storm coming, rain's coming, snow. I got a notification that snow was going to happen the other morning. And so a lot of people use the app called NOAA for their notifications, but it's more complicated than I can do. So NOAA is actually my one that I go to as backup if I'm really needing to know something that might be impending, but it's a little bit difficult for me to use, but I do have it on there. The other one that I use is AccuWeather Extended Forecast. You can also Google, you can say average temperatures in Denver for February, and it will give you that on the internet. But if you want an extended forecast that's more real time, as best they can get for 30 days out, I use the AccuWeather Extended Forecast. And the Weather Channel also has a 10-day and a monthly average on it, and I use it sometimes as well. I use an app called Windy. It shows the wind patterns, and again, that's really important, because if it says that it's going to get down into the 30s, for example, and the wind is going to be out of the south or southwest or southeast, that's not so bad. But if it shows that that wind is going to be coming in straight from the north and it's going to be in the 30s and there's rain behind that from your radar, that's a situation you probably don't want to stick around for. And so I actually look at my app called Windy quite a bit. And then there is another app called just Wind. It's a wind map, and it shows the whole globe. That's just really kind of cool. It's actually I don't think it's an app, it's a website that I keep in my weather folder, but I'll look at that sometimes because it's kind of fun to see how things are going across the continent, and you can get a pretty good idea then of maybe where you do and don't want to go. And then the other one is the United States Government Service. It gives you, well, you can get all kinds of things on it. You can get everything from earthquakes, and that's really what I use it for, because it's a geological site. And it can let you know earthquake hazards if you're going to be traveling in that part of the country where that is an issue. And we all know that weather has been an issue lately, and so I hope that these apps have been helpful to you. The folder that I have the most apps in is the folder that I have titled Travel. It has 32 apps, and yes, folks, I use them all. I know that sounds ridiculous, but let me see if I can run through them quickly for you so that maybe it's a little bit better idea of why I use so many apps to do what I do. And so there is All Stays Camp and Tent and All Stays Truck and Travel. That's two different apps, and yes, some of these are fee apps and some are free. Those, I believe, are a fee app, but oh my goodness, they are so worth it. The Truck and Travel, that one I actually sometimes will open up when I'm traveling as well. Remember I told you I open up Google Maps and I open up U.S. Public Lands, and I have those running while I'm driving. My All Stays Camp and Tent and my All Stays Truck and Travel are two that I sometimes will have open as well. Camp and Tent I use mostly to help find places, but the Truck and Travel, it'll give you all kinds of information when you're driving. It'll tell you about bridge heights, it'll tell you about rest areas and just different things, and truck stops, and then the next gas station. And so I use it sometimes when I'm traveling as well. Harvest Host, please use my referral that is in the links below. Harvest Host, I love them. Usually it's a one-night stay. Sometimes they will let you pay extra for a second night, but it is a one-night stay, and I use it for planning, especially if I am going a long distance between actual places that I'm going to stay a while and I just need some one-night hops. And so if you use my Harvest Host link, you get a 15% discount, and I get $15, and it doesn't cost you any extra. So that can really add up, and I would really appreciate it. And I love Harvest Host. Gas Buddy. Gas Buddy, when I am in a town I haven't been to before, can help me find good gas prices. Now with my old rig, Phoenix is a 1984. She's just a beast, but I actually put premium gas in her, and so I don't go to necessarily the cheapest gas, but it will help me find a gas station that I feel confident that I can put premium in her and she will run okay. Fuely is an app that I absolutely love, and the person that does my taxes loves it because it's how I track my mileage, and it also helps me track my gas mileage so that I can keep track of how my vehicle is doing. I also put in there when I do my oil changes and any maintenance on the rig and everything, and so that it's all in one place, and I love Fuely. And so I'm not going over my financial apps today, but since I mentioned taxes, let me just say that I use QuickBooks as well, and it will automatically help me track mileage and report receipts and everything as well. So that's kind of an aside from travel, but if you work on while you're traveling like I do, that might be helpful. So RV Parky is another one that I use. It is not for boondocking, but it is very helpful. And then, of course, Campendium, free campsites, The Dirt, National Park Service, NPS, RV dump sites, now for me very important, Texas State Parks, Pilot Flying J's. Sometimes they have on there which ones have water, which ones have propane, and different things like that. Passport America. And I have a labyrinth locator because when I'm traveling, sometimes I want to pull off and do a labyrinth. And so I have a labyrinth locator map. Cracker Barrel, I use that app because more and more Walmarts aren't allowing people to stay overnight because knuckleheads have ruined it. It's not camping, everybody. It's meant for you to stock up on your groceries, stay one night, and get out of there. Don't camp there. Anyway, so now I use the Cracker Barrel app as well, and this is actually just this is not an app, but I have when I find somebody that has listed a good road trip. You know, some people will put their map of the entire road trip that they've done online, and I will capture that and I will put in my travel folder. And Park Advisor is another good app. iOverlander is a good app. I have some that most people might not want to use. For example, the Texas Historical Markers. I really love it. And then again, Glacier Water. Sometimes that app works and sometimes it doesn't. So, but I'm going to list it because I do use it. Overnight parking and rest areas, free roam, flattest route. Now that is not necessarily a route, an app, but I have it in here and I can click on that and it's a website. Park for night. And the visitor map from the National Forest Service, you can track fires in it. They give you all kinds of advisories in there. You can look up camping on that. That map is a little bit over my head with some of the uses for it, but it is so wonderful. I love it very much. And then road trippers. And so like I said, I really do use all of those. And I will flip back and forth between using them and finding a place where I want to go to next, or when because I don't travel very far at a time, and then I stay somewhere for quite a while. And so I use all of those apps to try to find something, and then I try to go out as far as I can away from people. So it's like I use the apps to see where people go, and then I will do my own research and go even further out. And to do that, I use my benchmarks and everything. But I'm going to talk to you about those tomorrow, because you can sometimes do all of this and the benchmarks, which I have stored. It's hard for me to turn my finger that way, up there in my cabinet, and get there and find out that things are closed, and that has happened to me lately. And so I'll share more about that tomorrow. In the comments below, please let me know what your favorite apps are, and let me know if you learned anything from this, and if you want more videos like this. I've been out here 6 years, and I've learned a lot, and everything I know has been passed on to me, and I'm happy to pass it on to you. All right, everybody, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you down the road. Bye. Bandit's playing with his toy.